try to argue their way into Delta Sky Clubs and Centurion Lounges, even though it's not a feature of the Gold card. What's up guys, it's Sebastian from AskSebby. Today we're going to look at some reasons why you might want to avoid the Gold card, even though it's a pretty good card. Big favor before we dive into all of this is to give this a thumbs up to help with the algorithm, and if you are new here, you want to maximize your credit card, points, your cash back, then consider subscribing. Okay, so for the video, let's do the bull case first, the reasons why the card is good, and then we'll cover the bear case. The American Express Gold is one of the best workhorse points earners. It earns you 4x back at restaurants worldwide, including takeout and delivery in the US, 4x back at US supermarkets on up to $25,000 in spend per calendar year, 3x back on flights booked directly with airlines or on AmexTravel.com, and 1x back on everything else. I'd say that for most people, the 4x back categories are the key ones and the reason people get the Gold card. Interestingly, it's also one of the most heavily subsidized cards out there based off the annual fee. So there is a pretty hefty $250 annual fee, which sounds pretty bad, but you get $120 in Uber credit that's broken down into $10 per month, and this works for Uber as well as Uber Eats. You get an additional $120 in dining credits, $10 per month, that works at Grubhub, Cheesecake Factory, Goldbelly, Wine.com, Milk Bar, and also select Shake Shacks. In effect, $250 annual fee minus $240 in credits is a $10 effective annual fee. This is one of the best mid-game and late-game pickups once you kind of test out the waters and you realize maybe you don't like other cards and you want to kind of settle into a setup. If you do want to learn about cards, whether it's American Express or pretty much any other issuer out there and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and down below in the description box. Make sure the cards are competitive, and in this case, that the cards actually make sense for you, but otherwise, it's a huge way to support the channel, so thank you guys in advance. Okay, so why might you want to avoid this card? To me at least, there's about 6 reasons. I think some of them are going to seem pretty obvious, while other ones might be not as intuitive, but might actually matter the most. Number 1 is if you're someone that can't maximize the credits that are on the card. And this completely depends on where you live, your lifestyle, and how you like to spend your money. As someone that lives in San Francisco, I don't have a car, and I pretty much either walk or Uber everywhere. I'll happily use Uber Eats, especially if I'm working late and it saves time. In contrast, I have family that lives in upstate New York and they don't like to use Uber because they have cars. Maybe if they were a bit younger and they were going out to bars and that's kind of their designated driver, but that's not really their lifestyle. They're okay with Uber Eats, but they're not a fan of the options on there, and that makes sense given that it does tend to be more fast food takeout style. The main complaint I keep hearing from them is that they wish that the credits would roll over. So instead of expiring every month, imagine if, let's say you have $10 now, and if you don't use it for 6 months, then you have a $60 credit. So for them, they do take Ubers, but only when they travel. So if they're in Miami or something and they're taking an Uber to the cruise because they like to take cruises, then that's more useful for them. But otherwise, for let's say, I guess 9 or 10 months of the year, it's pretty much not useful. And to be fair, for most people, you probably fall into the middle ground. You're not necessarily on one extreme, but you do need to consider which one you lean towards. With the dining credit, it's pretty much the same thing. So it just depends on you and what you like to eat. For me, I pretty much eat everything, and I already go to Shake Shack anyways, even without this credit. So even though we're both looking at the same card, for me, I see dollar signs because it makes sense for me given that I can use these credits. They're pretty much seeing a white piece of paper. They'd probably rather have a $95 annual fee card that didn't have any of these credits and stuff. So for them, the City Premier card made more sense because the categories covered more ground and it was just easier to use, and they'd rather pay the fee up front without dealing with credits. So City Premier gets you 3x back at restaurants, supermarkets, gas stations, air travel, and also hotels. And in fact, for them, the points make more sense for them because they're more focused on investing and kind of saving, and it's just more economic travel rather than aspirational travel. I will cover that a lot more with number 4 though, but I think a lot of you would be surprised. Number 2, and pretty related, is if you're someone that does not like the idea of a coupon book. So if the Gold card, we already talked about the 2 credits pretty thoroughly. The bigger question to me is what happens when they update the card. The last time they updated the Gold was on October 4th of 2018. That's when it went from a $195 annual fee to $250, and they added all of these credits. So 4 years ago, it jumped from $195 to $250. Funny enough, if you put the numbers into an inflation calculator, $250 in 2018 is equivalent to $295 in 2022. And also to give you an idea of timing for other cards within American Express, let's look at the Platinum card. In 2017, the Platinum jumped from $450 to $550. 4 years later, in 2021, it jumped from $550 to $695. I would not be surprised if the Gold card is in the pipeline for either late 2022 or early 2023. Also, in case you're wondering why American Express does this, it's because it's a win-win-win. For their target demo who who likes the cards, they're probably benefiting from these credits. For the merchants, they're getting new customers in the door that otherwise might not have considered them. It's a win for them as a company and also for the shareholders because they're probably paying pennies on a dollar for each of these credits, if anything at all. On that note, if you want to add more to your stake in American Express and you want to try a new brokerage, this video is sponsored by Moomoo. Moomoo is a one-stop trading app that makes it easier for users to do everything they need to do to invest in a stock. The trading app is designed to help you do the heavy lifting when you're doing investment research. One thing I like is that you can watch and review the earnings conference calls. If you're curious about how financials compare, Moomoo does a pretty good job at visualizing information as well. All you need to do is click the top financial button, and then you have things like revenue, indicators, estimates, and also statements. One thing I've started doing a lot more is looking at what the smart money's doing. Moomoo has tools to help you track institutional investors like Warren Buffett. So funny enough, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway does own 20.22% of American Express. Despite the funny name, they're a registered broker under FINRA. This means that you're covered by SIPC with up to $500,000 for securities, including $250K for cash. Until November 15th of 2022, they do have a pretty good offer. You get 1 stock for opening an account, 10 for any deposit. So $10 because it's their 10th anniversary, 4 stocks for depositing $100, and an additional 10 stocks for depositing $2,000. Assuming worst case, you're getting about $4.84 per share. You're getting $82.60 as a minimum value with potential upside, and all of this for depositing $2,000 for up to 60 days. If you want to check out Moomoo and support the channel, I'll put a link down below. Thank you again for Moomoo for sponsoring today's video. Number 3, and I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people, is that the Gold Card has comparably weak benefits. For whatever reason, people think the Gold Card has these amazing travel perks and benefits, and that's not really the case. So we end up seeing this on the insurance end and also the travel ends, and some of these do overlap. When I think about the best American Express insurances, I think about return protection because that's one of the key ones, especially given how they interpret things and how they do things. If you take a look at the cards that have this perk, the Gold Card is distinctively missing. As you'd expect, there's an army of platinum cards, pretty much every flavor out there. And if you go down the list, you have something called a senior gold card, which is for seniors. I don't think they actually offer it anymore, but it's still available if you have it, and a few $450 annual fee cards. Okay, so all super expensive annual fee cards and a senior card. So what? Well, you also get this perk for the Amazon Business Card, which is a no annual fee card. And similarly, you see the BCP, the Blue Cash Preferred, and the EDP, the Everyday Preferred, which are both pretty reasonably annual fee cards that are lower than the gold. If you're someone that cares about travel protections, then you're pretty much out of luck. So for some big ones like trip cancellation and also interruption insurance, you're going to see it on the Centurions, the Platinums, the Delta Reserves, the Hilton Aspires, the Bonvoy Brilliance, pretty much all the $450 annual fee cards, and that's it. In a lot of ways, the Gold Card is kind of in this weird middle ground where it's not technically a premium card, but it does feel like it for a lot of people. And in fact, this ends up rolling into other areas as well. I think you'd be amazed at how many people Manny and I have seen try to get into Delta Sky Clubs and Centurion Lounges, even though it's not a feature and perk of the Gold Card. And the intent here isn't to bash the Gold Card, it's more so to help you understand the actual perks. That way you don't get left stranded or yelling at a front desk person trying to do their job and not really getting paid enough for it. I feel like I've seen way too many, do you know who I am? Let me speak to your manager type of moments. And to be fair, you do get perks like baggage protection, but it is more of the bottom of the bucket ones, the ones that are nice, but not the great ones. If you are someone that's a frequent traveler, I would consider adding something like the Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Chase Sapphire Reserve, given the protections and the fact that they also have primary CDW, which is very great for car rentals, and you might actually make the annual fee up solely from that alone. If you want to stay within the American Express ecosystem, the Hilton Aspire, as well as the Platinum, are obvious pickups that are pretty good as well. Number 4 is the points, and whether that ties into the lifestyle that you're after. I would say that this is more of a long-term one, and short-term is going to be number 6, where we talk about how you might lose a few $100 or $1,000 by going down the wrong route. When you talk about cards, the main reason is the value that you're getting, and for the gold, it tends to be the Forex back on dining and also US supermarkets. Pretty obvious, 4 is a pretty big number. Restaurants and supermarkets are pretty big categories for most people. The main issue is going to be the value of those points relative to what you want to use them for. I did a full-on video talking about every single thing you can do with American Express points, and all of the top level ones lean towards aspirational travel. So first class, business class, all the kind of annoying, buzzwordy Instagram things that I say a lot because there are a ton of people who care about that and people who really want to do it. If the alternative is you spending a ton of money on it, then yeah, it makes a ton of sense. But if for someone that doesn't care about this anyways, then it doesn't matter. There obviously is a demo for it and a pretty large one, but it's not everyone. Okay, so if you don't want to do that, what's the next best option? You have the Business Platinum as well as the Schwab Platinum. So with the Schwab, you can cash it out for 1.1 cents per point, so 4x is effectively 4.4% cash back, which is pretty good. If we go back to my relatives though, if they don't like the idea of dealing with the coupon book of the gold, then they're going to hate it with the platinum. For them, and probably for a lot of you guys, it just doesn't make sense. It's not worth the hassle. The juice is not worth the squeeze. Okay, so no platinum cards at all. What about just getting a business account through American Express and then cashing it out? In that case, if you go down that rabbit hole, you're getting 0.8 cents per point, so 4x back is effectively 3.2%. Okay, well, I don't want to open up a business account that's going to complicate my taxes. All of this sounds like way too much work for an extra 0.2%. Okay, fine, just cash it out as a statement credit for 0.6 cents per point. In that case, 4x back times 0.6 is 2.4%. For people in that group paying $250 annual fee, despite the credits and stuff, it's just not worth it for just 2.4%. For them, they're happy with their Costco card, with the Citi Double Cash, Citi Premier even with the $95 annual fee. It's just easier to use those points. And in fact, for the Premier, if you cashed out, if you want to invest in stuff, it's effectively 1 cent per point. So 3x is 3%. Okay, so number 5, before we dive back into the money side, is going to be if you live abroad or if you're a digital nomad. I feel like there's quite a few people who maybe spend 3 months in the US and then they travel the rest of the time. In that case, the credits seem pretty annoying to use, and I don't think it's worth jumping through these hoops, especially because one of the big categories is for US supermarkets. Number 6 is the opportunity cost, and I'd say that there's 3 different levels here. Number 1 is if you're someone under 524, you generally want to get chase cards while you still can. The easiest example is if you're at exactly 424. So in that case, if you get the gold card, you're now brought up to 524, so you can't get the Chase Sapphire Preferred. If you kind of flip the order though, you can get the Chase Sapphire Preferred and you can still get the gold card afterwards. So one locks you out of the other one and the other one doesn't affect things. And mind you, the Chase Sapphire Preferred has a pretty good intro bonus. You're probably getting at least $500 in net value. You have a downgrade path if you don't like in year 2. And you also start the Chase Sapphire clock, the 4-year clock, meaning that in 4 years, you can circle back and maybe test out the new card if they have a new Super Sapphire. On the flip side, cards like the gold card, per the terms at least, are technically once in a lifetime, so there's not really a rush to get it unless you really want to. Number 2, and pretty similar, is that the other issuers like Capital One, Citi, all have their own little versions of 524. They pretty much don't like it if you have too much velocity or too many other cards, but American Express, historically at least, doesn't seem to care. Lastly, number 3 is that even if you are going towards American Express, if it's your first American Express card, the optimal first choice is the Platinum. The rationale is that they target people who are not customers for the 150K offer, so the highest elevated offers possible for the Platinum, and then once you become a customer, they'll maybe give it to you, but it's just less common. In effect, the optimal strategy is to start at the Platinum and then kind of move down the line. A lot of people end up rushing to the gold card, locking themselves out of either other bonuses from other issuers or even just elevated offers. And to be fair, there are exceptions. If you're spending, let's say, $2,000 or $3,000 on dining every single month, then maybe the opportunity cost doesn't feel as substantial. I'd say that for most normal people though, people who aren't spending too much money, intro bonuses tend to move the needle because you're guaranteed about 20 to 30% return on spend. If you're only spending $500 or $1,000 a month, then that does affect things. I think I started the video by saying 6 different items, but let's throw in a bonus 7 one, and that's the fact that there's no downgrade path for the gold card. I guess technically there is. You can downgrade to the green card, but there still is an annual fee, so you're stuck paying forever. You cannot downgrade to the Blue Cash Everyday or the Everyday card, so both of those are no annual fee cards, but they're also not options as downgrade paths for the gold. This pretty much means that you either have to keep paying the annual fee or cancel the card. So for example, going back over to Chase, you can downgrade a Sapphire Preferred or the Sapphire Reserve to a Freedom Flex. This is a no annual fee card that has a lot of utility. Over on the Citi end, you can downgrade a Premier to either a Double Cash or a Custom Cash. Both are high utility cards that can add a ton of value that also have no annual fee. I love the gold card and I think it's one of the best workhorse cards available. Just make sure you're not forcing yourself into a rabbit hole and for something that might not make sense for you. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on AskSebby.com and down below in the description box. If you are someone new to American Express, then check out Card Match. I'll leave a blog post down below walking you through how to do that and maybe get the 150K offer. If you made it to this point in the video, then leave a golden crown emoji in the comments down below and I'll try to heart it and also respond to the comment. My question for you is, what do you like about the gold card and what don't you like? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favor, give this a thumbs up, consider subscribing, but otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.